But now, there you go. There you are. Hello, my friends over on YouTube. I was already doing the stream, but I forgot to click the live button twice. So the software that I use requires me to first say, hey, yes, I want to go live. And then for some reason, they want me to confirm that, and I thought I was already live. So welcome. So I'm again streaming this simultaneously to TikTok and to YouTube. So my eyes may get a little bit crossed because I've got the phone here. This is what I use for TikTok, and then I've got the camera over there, which is like to this side of the screen if you're watching this on TikTok for the YouTube camera. We're going to talk about Star Wars. We're going to talk about Andor Episode 7. And I want to start with my initial spoiler-free reaction. Before that, I just want to address a few of the questions on TikTok. Have I seen House of the Dragon? Yes, I've seen 2 episodes. I'm so far behind on that because of Andor and Rings of Power, etc. But now that at least Rings of Power is done, I want to go definitely catch up on House of the Dragon. I think there's still 1 or 2 episodes, right? And then it's done. So we'll definitely also do we will do a House of the Dragon hour one of these weeks or days. I try to catch up. It still, these episodes are about an hour per episode, so it will take me a couple of days to watch them all. So anyway. Thankfully, people on YouTube are able to see me now as well. Say hi to Grogu here on my desk. I want to this is Grogu. He's always there when I talk about Star Wars. So just gonna leave him next to the light because he likes shiny, transparent things that that shine. It's just a baby. Yeah. So I'm always tempted to immediately react to all the questions and comments that I see on YouTube and on TikTok. But if I do that, I won't be able to do my initial review of Andor. So let's start with that. Then we'll do a short pause, and then we'll go in-depth spoiler analysis of Andor Episode 7. I am a Dutch father. Yes, I am a Dutch priest. Yeah, I live in the Netherlands. I've always lived here, but I studied abroad, and I've been doing social media since 2005, basically. And even before that, I used to have a big Star Wars website, which was called the Virtual Edition. So if you Google Virtual Edition Father Roderick, you may still come across some of that very, very ancient stuff that I used to do back in the day when the prequels were the new thing. So, how am I going to do this? I think I'm just going to do like a short Andor. So the Andor episode is called The Announcement, right? Yes. So let's first do the initial spoiler-free review. There are a few Dutch fans that want me to say hi on TikTok. So, goedemiddag, fijn dat jullie er ook bij zijn. En dit is het bewijs dat ik wel degelijk uit Nederland kom en niet ergens anders vandaan. That was Dutch, in case you were wondering if all of a sudden I switched allegiances from the Jedi to the Klingons. But this is how Dutch sounds. But I appreciate the questions in English. Again, I'm first going to do a review, like a spoiler-free review of Andor 7. So I won't be able to immediately react to the chat. I hope you don't mind. Oh, by the way, before that's going to be my final housekeeping announcement. If you follow me on my YouTube page, especially those of you that are currently only following me on TikTok, I just posted a full review of the first episode of Chainsaw Man, which is a very popular anime that has just started on Crunchyroll. So if you want to see my first review my review of the first episode of Chainsaw Man, go and follow me on YouTube. It's youtube.com/Father Roderick. Let's talk about Andor. Today, the 7th episode of Star Wars Andor dropped on Disney Plus, and I just finished watching it, and I want to give you my first initial spoiler-free review, or I should say reaction, because it's so fresh that I haven't really given it a lot of thought. But oh my gosh, I do want to talk about it, because this was in a certain way a very atypical episode. We've seen these 2 story arcs now, and the creators have explained that they wanted to do these 3 episode arcs. So we get the introduction, then the last episode last week was the conclusion of the second story arc, where it was all about the heist. But this episode feels much more as if we're done with the preparations, and now everything starts moving, and you see the fallout to a certain extent, and also the follow-up on all the storylines that they've started to build up over time. It's been said before, and I will say it again, this is a slow burn series, which is a bit disconcerting for us old-time Star Wars fans. We are used to Star Wars being always like full of action, very much almost a bit simplistic in the storylines. I'm not talking about character development, of course, but simplistic in the sense that there's always like a setup, this is the status quo, and then something goes wrong, and then there's action. Like we've seen, especially on television, so many of these animated episodes where every episode has to keep your attention because they only have those 25 minutes for the story to work, but not with Andor. Andor really takes its time, and there were moments, I have to be honest, and I know that I'm not the only one, there were moments in the first 6 episodes where I felt like, come on, okay, so where is this going? Give us a little bit more. Especially episode 5 was kind of on the slow side. Well, all of that, I think, is now a thing of the past, because this episode 7, this is where you feel like, okay, we're over the halfway point. So they set up everything, and now it starts to pay off. And it especially starts to pay off when it comes to character development. All the main characters that we've gotten to know, and in some cases also gotten to love, or we've gotten to hate, they are starting to really evolve. And there is drama, there is tension, there are choices that are being made. You see careers that go up, you see careers that go down the drain, you've got ideals that are lost, and you've got new plans that emerge. And well, let's talk about the various categories. Again, no spoilers here, but we've got first of all, of course, we've got Cassian Andor. And in this episode, he's back from the heist. And now, of course, we all wonder, what's he going to do? And last week we saw that he was still in this kind of Han Solo phase of his life. He had gone through this very dramatic introduction to this group of rebels, and he felt so ill at ease. He didn't fit in. He didn't really embrace the ideals of this emerging rebel alliance. Instead, he was still very pragmatic. I'm in it for the money. I just want my cut. I helped you. This is what you all wanted. And now I just want to go back to my previous life. I want to go back to who I was and where I was. And maybe also, he didn't really say it out loud, but he wants to go back to something that has been on his mind ever since that fateful moment that he left his younger sister behind in the camp, and he wanted to go with the grown-up, well, the older teenagers, and go see what happened to this crashed ship. And that was the last time that he saw his sister, and ever since that moment, he has been on a quest to find his sister again. And I feel that in the way they tell the story, this is almost always like simmering in the background. Like, Cassian is not totally like Han Solo. It's not just about the money and about the easy life. You feel that is, in a certain way, for him also compensating for this big hole in his soul that is the fact that he lost his sister. That was his only family. We have never seen his parents. And so, yes, he's been adopted, but his sister, his real family, is no longer there. And so he's constantly kind of, his life is on hold. This whole episode about the heist, the rebels, to him, it can never be as important as his quest to find a family. And you wonder if he's ever going to find that family, or maybe he will ultimately discover that the rebels are his new family. But I think that is actually the part of his character arc that we see in Rogue One. But I think what this episode 7 does really well is to show us a little bit more his mindset. Where is he at? And he is definitely still not learning from his experiences. He wants to go back to where he was, but of course, that's no longer possible. He has done things that have put things in motion, so now there's no way back. And then, of course, he's going to be confronted with everything that he has left behind, or that he has to left behind. And this episode was a lot about that. And I thought that was maybe the best aspect of this episode. It's this tear in his existence. He cannot go back to who he was, but he doesn't know how to go forward. He doesn't really know where to go from here. I thought it was very well executed. I also loved all the other people in this episode. No spoilers, but we see a couple of characters that we haven't seen for a number of episodes, because of course Cassian was out there on that Scotland planet for his rebel activities. But we get to see a few more of the characters that we've gotten to know in the first 3 episodes. It was great to see them back. At the same time, also heartbreaking to see what happens. Anyway, I've probably already said too much about that. Then you've got, of course, Cyril Khan, who was part of this group of kind of low-level security officers, and he's been sacked because of what happened on Ferrix, and now he's back at his mom. And the previous episodes kind of showed us that his mother was trying to give him, or use her connections to make sure that her son gets a new job. But you also felt how frustrating that must have been for Cyril Khan to be literally back at the start. He's a child again. His mother serves him Cheerios with blue milk, kind of belittles him, constantly corrects him, and she knows what's good for him. But that's also another way to say you don't know what's good for you. And so this is going to have a major impact, I think, on the evolution of his character, not just in this first season, but I think we'll see the ramifications of what happens to him right now in the second season. I think they're setting him up as a very dangerous foe, a very, very, very menacing opponent for Cassian Andor. This cannot end well. That's the feeling that I have. But I loved that in this episode we get to see much more of Coruscant, of his background, and also what happens next. And again, the cringe surrounding his character. You really feel for him. And I know he's supposed to be a bad guy, but this episode does one thing really well. It makes you empathize with his lot in life, with his current supposed destiny, and you want something better for him in a certain way. Because let's be honest, even though he may be on the wrong side of history, he is an idealist. He really wants to do he knows what the Empire is supposed to do, but they don't do it. They're all corrupt. And he's an upstanding man, and he wants to, do the right thing. And it looks as if he's only getting punished for it. Even his mother does not acknowledge that he is someone who deserves better than what happened to him. Anyway, great stuff there around Cyril Khan. Then we've got the Security Bureau, like all these people with their beautiful, I think they're looking great, their white costumes, and they are, of course, having to deal with the fallout of what happened on Scotland Planet. I always forget what that planet is called, Aldani. And so the Aldani incident has been widely covered in the media, which of course is very painful for the Empire. The Empire can only keep people under control if people believe that you have to be afraid of the Empire. And so this heist is a blemish, is tarnishing the image that people might have of the Empire. And so what does the Empire do? Well, they react the only way they know how to react, and that is with even more rules and violence and oppression. And it's almost a bit of a caricature what the Empire is trying to do. But there is this one young lady who also is starting her career in the Empire, Dedra. And she is one of the few people, and we've seen this before in the episodes that came before this one. We see that she's one of the few people that feels a bit like Cyril, like there's more to this. I feel it, I know it. But now she has to prove it. That there's something else going on. This is not just a robbery. She sees the connections, but she is the only one. And of course, as we see in almost every big organization where people have their established position within the hierarchy, there are also people that hate her for that are afraid for their own authority, their own position, their own career by this young, very ambitious officer that seems to be onto something, but they are not. And so I loved how they portrayed the power play here. And again, they show us that these people that work in the security bureau of the Empire, they're not just like monolithic black versus white people. Every officer that we see has a slightly different approach, different opinions. There is tension within the Empire, but it's done all in dialogue. And it's so subtle and so extremely well written. You see all the Machiavellistic concoctions and all this power play. And I love it. This is stuff that we knew had to be part of the Star Wars story, but the way in which we've been telling Star Wars stories so far was, just didn't give room. I didn't have room for developments like this. Anyway, there's a lot of politics in this episode, and I thought it was really well done. Speaking of politics, we then have, of course, Mon Mothma and Luthien, and they are conspiring, but of course they have to be extremely careful because everybody is watching them. And we see in this episode also a very interesting dynamic where Mon Mothma has her approach to things, and then Luthien, he's playing his games, and there's a bit of a fallout between the two. And, well, you'll have to watch the episode to see exactly why and how, but we are pushed more in the direction of Mon Mothma this time. And so we follow her, and we see how she uses her very influential position as a senator to help the cause of the rebellion. And she's also very much aware that she can't do that alone. And so she needs to find allies, which of course is super dangerous, because how can you tell if someone can be trusted or not? So I like that we see that with her. And then we've got, on the other side, we've got Luthen, and he seems to always have the position that, well, the less people that are involved, the safer it is. But he, too, took a huge risk by hiring Cassian. And Cassian is still a risk. So we see we get this we get a scene. I have to be vague in my descriptions. There's this encounter where we see that even among the rebels, not everybody seems to think it's a great idea that Cassian has been involved and that he's still walking around. So how is that going? That was, to me, that was a big surprise. Like, oh, wow. So wait a minute. Cassian is now targeted by different sides all together. How is that going to end? This is again, it's a level of nuance that we haven't seen so far in Star Wars. It's just altogether, this is definitely one of the best written episodes. Maybe not the one with the most action, but man, this brings Star Wars again to a whole new level. Let's finish off this first impressions video by talking about the relationships. As I said, we get to see a few more of the people that we've gotten to know in the first 3 episodes, and what happens between those people, basically Andor's family. It's heartbreaking. It's wow. I was so impressed. And then the way this episode ends with Cassian basically he's trying to find his way, but I feel that he's going totally in the wrong direction. You're like, but why do you do what you do? How can you leave people behind like this? And so this episode ends with so much tension, and then there is this big surprise towards the end. No spoilers here. But when it happens, you'll be like, oh. Well, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. It was awesome. It's absolutely fantastic. And that, to me, that made it so that at the end of this episode, I was like, oh my gosh, finally, this series is now in full swing. And I can't wait for the next 5 episodes, 5 more episodes. I'm so happy that this series is 12 episodes. And it really, the slow burn starts to pay off in a way that I did not expect, at least not at this level of quality. What an amazing job they did. That's my initial review. Let me know your comments let me know your thoughts in the comments, I should say. If you like what you see, please subscribe. And if you are on TikTok as well, make sure to check me out on TikTok at Father Roderick. I post more short form content. And if you're watching my stuff on TikTok, make sure you also watch what I do on youtube.com/Father Roderick. All right. May the force be with you. Can't wait to hear what you thought. That, ladies and gentlemen, on TikTok and on YouTube, that was my little, condensed first review. I always notice that when I do these things live, I feel like I didn't prepare well enough. So I didn't have any talking points, and I'm just trying to keep it condensed, but I always go overboard and it becomes so long. This is why TikTok for me is such a good school. Because if I do anything on TikTok, except for live, of course, where I can talk as much as I want, but if I do videos for TikTok, I have to make sure that I condense everything in 1 or 2 minutes. So this, I think I just filled like 15 minutes at least with my initial impressions. I could never post that on TikTok because TikTok is maximum of 10 minutes, but I don't think I would dare to go 10 minutes long because I don't think that the medium is for long form content. But anyway, what I do normally, just to give you a little bit a peek behind the scenes, is so for me this is a very effective way of doing content because I like to talk and I like to share this live. And there is something about the dynamics of having people that are also in the chat and they're reacting and asking questions that it gives me a lot of adrenaline. So I want to do these every weekday, these live sessions. But then I also make sure that I talk about stuff that I can then isolate and repost on YouTube because the algorithm is not very favorable for live stuff. It's very different from TikTok, where live is very much encouraged by the algorithm, especially if you give it a thumbs up or a heart the content or react. All that interaction is very good for TikTok, but doesn't really work that well on YouTube. However, YouTube is very good if you just take for instance, like an 8-minute excerpt, and then you repost that and you optimize it with a good title and then the right keywords and good thumbnail art. Very important. I usually spend about an hour creating a thumbnail. Then thousands of people get to see those short videos. So anyway, that's kind of the game I play by being on social media. All right, let's go to the questions before I do more of an in-depth, spoiler-filled review of Andor episode 7. What time are we at? We're at 5:38, so I still have about 20 minutes. Okay, that should be fine. I can't go any longer because I'm actually also celebrating something today. Today it's exactly 26 years ago that I was ordained a priest. So 26 years ago, it sounds like it is a lifetime. I was ordained a priest. And back then I was already doing websites and blogging about Star Wars. I think the whole concept of blogging hadn't been invented yet. And yet every day I was posting stuff about Star Wars. So, at 6, I'm going to join my friend, Father Henry, in whose parish I'm assisting. And he was ordained also 26 years ago. He was part of the same group. So we formed this little Catholic Rebel Alliance. All righty. Let's see. So Christopher just watched. I'm looking at the comments on YouTube here for a moment, in case on TikTok you're wondering why I'm looking in the wrong direction. Nautilus says the new planet that we see was amazing. I agree. It was awesome. It felt a bit like Miami. Was that just me? Maybe that was on purpose. Christopher also has just finished the episodes. I'm still in the spoiler-free phase of the live stream, in case you're wondering. And then most people are just saying hi. So Liz says, we haven't seen it yet, so we'll be muting you when you start the spoilery stuff. That's not a problem. You're supposed to mute me. You shouldn't be watching it because... like almost everything, you don't want to be spoiled beforehand. I made that mistake once in my life when I was doing my ooh, wow, that is very cool. What just happened? Someone just posted an aquarium on my TikTok feed. Like all of a sudden I see like fish and it looked amazing. I don't know who did that. Y says, your cheekbones are nice. Yeah, I inherited those from my Chinese mom. So... It's not a merit. And then I get a rose from someone. I love it how on TikTok you can do these little signs of appreciation. Believe me, I really appreciate the interaction. Do you like Starkiller and Cal from the video games? I heard rumors that they may be coming to live action. I think that's more than a rumor. If I'm not mistaken, that has already been confirmed. They want to do something more. Oh, wow. Now I've got a pumpkin there showing up. Thank you so much. But yes, I think this refers to the most recent Star Wars game out there. There's going to be a sequel, and I think the actor has already been approached by Lucasfilm to see if they can do something real live action. I think that would be a very smart idea. We've seen so many... We've seen, I think, a little bit too many stories on Star Wars with old people. And I totally understand there's a lot of money to be made with nostalgia. But, Boba Fett, The Mandalorian, even Obi-Wan Kenobi. I love that series. But this is old stuff. And I think we need some younger, new heroes. And they tried to do that with Solo. But that movie didn't go anywhere. I mean, I love the movie, but it never really got a follow-up. And so we had a few young people that were introduced in that movie. And then, well, I just want to see more younger generation Star Wars heroes and heroines on Disney Plus, and not just in animated form, because I love animation. I love what they did, but I think it's time for, and they are actually working on a series that's going to feature children. But I want like the in between. I want to like Star Wars heroes, either Imperial or Jedi or whatnot, in their 30s and their 20s. I don't know. How do I feel about anime portraying the church? It's all over the place. Anime, there's not just one way. Japanese anime loves to use Christian imagery because it's exotic for people in Japan, because the Christians are a minority in Japan. So that's very much similar to how we love that kind of Japanese culture and Korean culture that we see on modern television, because it's so foreign to our European storytelling. And so we kind of like that it's new and it's fresh and it's interesting. I always take things as they are. I don't have a preconceived judgment about, you should not watch anime or you should not watch science fiction or fantasy. I always judge stories on the merit of the quality of storytelling and what is the story that they are telling and what are the values that they're trying to transmit. And then, it's very rare that I hate a story or that I hate a genre. So, yeah, I may be a bit of an exception. I don't know, but although I have to say, Father Eric, who's also working in this parish, he is an even bigger geek than I am. I mean, he has read like so much fantasy stuff. He read the entire Wheel of Time. He read almost every Stephen King book. He's a huge board game fan, so I'm not the only geek, and it's fun. He's definitely a generation younger than I am. So, but there are other priests that are a bit geeky. Dragon Ball franchise. There's a lot of questions now about anime. I totally understand, but I'm also doing a weekly anime hour, so maybe we can dive more into the anime questions when I focus on anime. This is still officially Star Wars hour, so if you don't mind, I want to go back to Star Wars and to Andor. We're going to talk spoilers in a minute, but there's just one thing I want to say. Like the other day, I did an anime hour, and some of you recommended that I watch Full Metal Alchemist, and so I did. I'm very obedient, and I watched the first 2 episodes of Full Metal Alchemist, and thank you for suggesting that. That is a great story. That's a really great series. I loved it. So next week, when I have my anime hour, or maybe even before that on TikTok, I will definitely start talking about that as well. And so I've got Berserk on my list, and Full Metal Alchemist, and JoJo Bizarre's Adventure. Lots of stuff for the next anime hour, so make sure you're subscribed. And you can also follow me on social media, by the way. That's also where I share whenever I go live. So all of that. Thank you so much, by the way, for all the likes, for all the little graphics, presents that you'll give me on TikTok. It's very much appreciated. Do I like KOTOR games? Yes. Oh boy, I've played almost every Star Wars game. So all right, let's talk about Andor episode 7, but this time we're going to talk spoilers. So now is the time to mute me if you don't want to hear my more detailed thoughts about Andor episode 7. And of course, you can always come back later on and watch this. Not if you're on TikTok, unfortunately. There's no way to rewatch live streams on TikTok. But if you're watching this right now on TikTok, just look up youtube.com/Father Roderick. Just go to YouTube, type in Father Roderick, subscribe to that channel, because that's where the live streams that I do, also Anime Hour, are always like archived in full. So you can always go back if you are unable to join me live. So, all right, let's get ready. Again, I'm going to do a recording where where I can cut it loose from the live stream. So that's why I will do like an official introduction, etc., etc. All righty. So here we go. Andor Season 1, Episode 7, The Announcement. Hi and welcome to another video about Andor. I'm Father Roderick, I'm a priest and I'm a geek, and I love to talk about Star Wars, and not just about lightsabers and cool spaceships, but also about the deeper meaning of the Star Wars stories, all these layers. And speaking of layers, Andor must be the most multi-layered show so far that I've ever seen. This is absolutely one of my favorite series for television done so far. But episode 7 took it to a whole new level. I loved this episode for its writing and for its character development. There's a lot of drama, and in this video, I'm going to assume that you've seen the episode. If not, stop this video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, of course, and then come back after you've seen the episode, and then you can listen to what I thought about spoilers. To remind you of what this episode was about, I found a recap. This time, I'm reading the recap from ReadySteadyCut.com. After all the action heist, or the all-action heist of the Imperial garrison on Aldhani in Andor Episode 6, the announcement, Episode 7, settles into a slower rhythm to deal with the fallout. News of the ballsy act of rebellion is everywhere, for better and for worse, emboldening some and terrifying others. But there is a clear sense that the mission was a turning point in the timeline. The ISB, for instance, that's the Imperial Security Bureau, they have been reassured by Palpatine, yes, he was mentioned in this episode, that a Senate hearing will be convened to grant them additional powers, which Miro thinks is playing in the hands of the burgeoning rebel movement. So Dedra is warning the Empire, like, this is exactly what the rebels want. They want us to believe that this is a robbery, that this is just part of, just random acts of rebellion. But she sees the connections and she feels that no, the rebels are onto something. They are doing this systematically, and they are taking our valuable equipment and now also money to fund something way bigger. It is a threat, but of course, no one believes her. So what I also liked about this first part of the story is that the Empire has this same knee-jerk reaction that it has always shown in the past, and that they will also do later on in A New Hope and in Empire Strikes Back, and that they react with more oppression, more violence. They literally use the metaphor at one point of clenching your fist, tightening your grip, and we know what Leia says about that. It won't help, but they think that's the only way that they know how to react. But maybe Dedra is going to show us that there is also an alternative way to deal with the rebellion. Meanwhile, Mon Mothma suspects Luthen and isn't happy about A, the fact that she had no knowledge of the operation in the first place. We're talking about the Aldhani operation. And B, the potential ramifications on her position as a senator. An Imperial Star Destroyer floats ominously over Aldhani. This is, of course, the famous shot of the teaser trailer. I was hoping that we got to see it. And then, of course, this huge Star Destroyer accompanied by small groups of TIE fighters shows that the Empire is reacting with more power. We hadn't seen any stormtroopers yet on Aldhani, but we hear in the episode in the background that they've already arrested hundreds of people on Aldhani as a retaliation, and now they're sending in this big Star Destroyer just like they did on Jeddah later on in Rogue One. It's literally showing off their power. This is a Star Destroyer. We are here hovering over you. You cannot escape our grip. A very menacing, very cool scene. So this is very bad news, of course, the Star Destroyer and the way in which the Empire reacts. The good news is that word of the attack is getting to the people, and the people are beginning to believe in something bigger than themselves. So the heist on Aldhani becomes almost like a rallying cry to people that may, up until that moment, may not have been willing to join the rebellion. Maybe it's just something that they sometimes maybe talked about, hush hush, but no, it's too dangerous. But now people are seeing that there are actually groups of rebels that are dealing a blow to the Empire, and that is encouraging. So this may actually be the beginning of more people joining the rebellion, because at this point in history, the rebellion is still pretty small, very poor, as we've seen, and they have no money, they don't have much. They don't have any ships yet, but that may be about to change. So the people start to believe that there is a chance that you can resist the Empire's totalitarianism, and that it's actually worth rising up against the oppressor. But there's still plenty of work to be done. Miro is fortunate that she was the only person to have picked up on the evidence of that work being done in the first place, since it strengthens her position. She might flirt with the rules somewhat in amassing reports of missing avionics outside of her own jurisdiction, but when the matter is raised officially by Blevin, she not only gets the props for using her initiative, but also gets to take over his duties. She is quietly positioning herself as one of the show's primary antagonists. I love that, by the way, that this whole power play, that was maybe the favorite part, my favorite part of the episode, especially the dialogue there. So Blevin thinks that he's going to win by basically ratting out what Dedra is doing, and yeah, she is kind of like ignoring the rules, but she has so much more vision. She displays courage, and that is also perceived by her superiors. Although she does get that warning, watch your back. So you know that Blevin is going to try to thwart her plans, or worse, maybe she's going to get herself killed if she's not careful. It just shows you what a great group of friends the Empire actually constitutes. We also begin to see how allies can turn into potential enemies very quickly, as Luthen's assistant Clea clandestinely meets with Vel and orders her to tie up the loose end that is Cash in Andor. This was the most shocking moment, because now apparently there are also rebels that want to go after Cassian and get him out of the way, because Cassian, of course, as a mercenary, is now a liability. You know, who can tell that he's going to keep quiet about what happened there during the heist? Maybe for the proper amount of money, he is willing to basically rat out the rebels. It's understandable, but I never thought that they would go this far by portraying the rebels also as being a threat to Cassian. They're not that likable in this episode. Definitely not ideal for Cassian himself, who never particularly wanted to be involved in the uprising in the first place. And that isn't the only way in which Cassian's involvement in the mission backfires on him. With word of the raid spreading, the people of Ferrix, including Marva, his foster mother, are beginning to believe in the viability of resistance, and Cassian's adoptive mother wants to remain behind on Ferrix to fight, despite the fact that he now has enough money to take them literally anywhere else. Cassian is forced to leave without her, without anyone, for that matter. This was definitely the most emotional part of the story and of the episode. Heartbreaking. He goes back to his mother, and he is so proud of what he has done. Mom, I finally have the money. Let's get out of here. And then his mother is like, no, I'm staying here. I believe in the rebellion. Why would I continue to give the Empire what it wants? It's time to rise up. She shows, I think, a very courageous example to her son. But of course, Cassian doesn't believe in the rebellion yet. He wants to just live the easy life. He's got plenty of money. And I would say, in the gospel, you have Jesus talking about the narrow gate and then the paved road, right? So most people always go for the easy route. But if you really want to be a follower of the rebellion that is Jesus in a certain way, because yeah, it was definitely considered to be a rebel by the established powers of those times. But if you want to follow the rebellion that he is about to start, you have to go through the narrow gate. It's not easy. And here, Cassian is definitely going for easy and for safe. He just wants to get out of that awful place. And who can blame him? He's suffered, and his mother has suffered from the empire. In fact, and I don't know if we had heard this before, but it's shown that his father was hanged by the stormtroopers. And I think the stormtroopers that we see in this episode are actually kind of precursors to the stormtroopers that we know from A New Hope. But I think that this must have been part of the retaliation that was going on. And so, yeah, he's got his reasons to hate the Empire, but he doesn't want to fight the Empire, because he knows that the power is too overwhelming. He doesn't believe that the rebels are strong enough. And he has reasons, actually, to not believe that, because he's seen these rebels and he knows that it's just a ragtag group of people that hardly know what they're doing. They're just winging it. And if it hadn't been for Cassian, they would have totally been obliterated. So, yeah, you can't blame him, but of course we know that it's the wrong thing to do. And I admired his mother just standing, even though she's old, and what can she do against a Star Destroyer? But she has courage, and that is something that is more valuable than anything else. But Cassian doesn't listen, and he doesn't follow his mother, and so you get that breakup. And in this, what I also loved structurally, story-wise, what they do here is to create this contrast between two sons and two mothers here. We see Cyril Khan back with his mom, totally obedient. And his mother is just finding him the most awful job in the galaxy. It's this bureaucratic, stupid desk job. But isn't that a way also for her to tell her son, I don't believe in you? She is projecting, right? She's criticizing Cyril's fancy clothing, because just like he did with his costume, he had his regular clothes also be upgraded and tailored. And then his mother is telling him, you just do that because you're insecure about your position. You just want to show off. Well, let me show you your place. But of course, it's his mother who lacks faith and lacks ambition and lacks the confidence in her son. And so it's just, I was feeling so bad for Cyril. And you know that he is destined for something much, much bigger. But then he will have to dare to step away from his mother, which he doesn't dare right now. Cassian and his mother, Marva, it's the opposite almost. Like here, it's the mother who wants to challenge her son to be brave, to stand up against the Empire, do the right thing. And it's Cassian who just settles for the simple life on a planet that feels a bit like Miami, He's just going to the beach and wants to just be a tourist. And of course, that doesn't work. The Empire is there too. There is no place where you can escape from the grip of the Empire, because they want total domination. Let's never forget that the Empire is a bit of a analog to the Nazi Empire, and the Nazis wanted world domination. The Empire is never going to leave these safe havens. Only maybe for their own subjects, but definitely not for the regular people. And well, Cassian is about to find out. There is no other way than rebellion or submission. But Cassian leaves his mother behind, and also, I think her name is Bix, right? Or anyway, the young woman that he had an affair with, or maybe just a regular relationship, and then Tim, her new boyfriend, has betrayed him. But he leaves her behind as well. Gives her a ton of money. But it's not really the knight in shining armor there. He's really showing his pragmatic, I would say, loser side, because he's losing. He's losing what should be the most important to him. He's losing his family, and he's losing the few people that he called friends. And what does he get in return? Well, this is where things get worse for Cassian. While he's hiding out on Niamos, that's the Miami planet, at a nice beachside resort, he's accosted by a shore trooper, which was so cool because we got introduced to the shore troopers in Rogue One. I've got a couple of friends in the 501st, the Dutch garrison division of the 501st, and there are a few people that actually made that entire beach shore trooper costume, and then they were so sad that there was no sequel to Rogue One. Well, there can't be a sequel to Rogue One because the sequel to Rogue One is A New Hope. But I know that they're jumping up and down now that this costume makes a return in the Andor series. It's a very cool costume, a very cool outfit. But not only do we get to see a shore trooper, but there is a KX droid that may or may not be K2SO before being reprogrammed. I'm sure that it is K2SO, but you get to see the menacing side of this droid. Oh my gosh, that confrontation between the two, and just the sheer size of these droids, unbelievably cool. Very, very well done. But of course, this first meeting is not going all too well for Cassian. And then you also get to see, again, a first for Star Wars. You get to see the injustice of the Empire and how they are just setting up these basically fake judges. There's this one judge, female judge, and she's just eating nuts, and she's clearly totally not interested in all the little thieves that she has to send to prison. And then to make it even worse for her, there is this guy who says, I'm just a tourist, and he's basically not complying. And so she sends him to prison for 6 years for an offense that she actually tells Cassian normally would only get 6 months. But because you resist, because you're a loudmouth, 6 years. There is no justice there. What kind of judge does that? There is no process. There is no proof. He's just being... In fact, when they read the charges, the people that arrested Cassian have amplified it, and he's being convicted for crimes that he didn't even commit. But it shows you, from the perspective of Cassian, who we kind of care for, that this is something that is happening all across the galaxy. So imagine what this does to the parents of children that get condemned like this, of the relatives and the colleagues and the friends of people that get sent to jail like that without any due process, without any type of real justice. This is what actually is the nesting ground, you could say, for the rebellion. It's not just the violent stormtroopers and the big star destroyers. No, it's this day-to-day injustice, the oppression of the little people. There's no place where you can be safe. So there is no other response than rebellion. So he is now in prison, and that's where the episode ends. And it is, I think it's an awesome, what is it? I'm looking for the word. I can't find it. It's the ultimate. How do you call that when you end an episode on like with tension? Cliffhanger. Golly, My brain is fried. Anyway, the perfect cliffhanger for this episode, and I think we got a lot, and I'm very impressed with what they did. And now, of course, we want to see what happens to Cassian. I want to definitely see what happens to Dedra. I want to see what happens to Cyril, because we ultimately see him in his with his desk job, and you see him like look up like almost in desperation. You know that he's not going to stay there. So I want to see what happens to him. I want to see what happens to his mother, Marva. That I feel like that can only end in a very, very bad way. Maybe that will be the wake-up call for Cassian. But how can he even stay in touch with his mother when he's in prison? I definitely want to see more of all the story arcs, even what happens to Mon Mothma. She is definitely getting people involved and trying to raise more money, but she is playing it in a very risky way. What's going to happen to her? How is that whole kind of broken relationship with her husband going to turn out? What's going to happen with her daughter, who just walks away in the middle of this party? Is her daughter going to have an impact on her personal story? I don't know. You just feel the tension in the air. You feel like, oh, these writers know so well what they've been doing for 6 episodes, and now we're gonna see where that all leads. This is what the series needed, and I'm glad that we get to see this at the halfway point. Those were my thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this episode. If you have any ulterior thoughts on where the story might be going, the comments is the place where you want to share that. Thanks for watching. Make sure to be subscribed, and I would appreciate a like, a share, or a comment. If you want to hear more of my my podcast, I do a weekly podcast for my patrons over at patreon.com/FatherRoderick, where I talk about anime. I do these deep dive analysis episodes about Star Wars series and movies. And in the process, you also get to help me with the choices on what to comment on and how to develop my my work here on social media. So if it's possible for you to help me out, I would definitely appreciate it. I do this as a priest, but I don't get paid for it. My bishop basically gave me the opportunity to do this kind of work, but I'm not getting paid for it. So I have to rely on my patrons. That's my only source of income. That's why I put it forward. It's not for my next jacuzzi, just so I can pay the rent and so that I can continue this kind of work. Anyway, thanks. Talk to you later, and may the force be with you. I am back. Well, that means I'm back here for you on TikTok, on YouTube. What time are we? Oh, it's already 6:10, so I need to start wrapping up. Oh my gosh, there's such an interesting discussion going on TikTok, like very philosophical. Like what is perception? Oh my gosh, you guys rock. And here I am just talking about silly Star Wars. Anyway, that's what TikTok is about, right? It's just meeting people and having discussions that you wouldn't have anywhere else. Let me take a look at the YouTube chat room. What's happening there? Okay, so a lot of people, of course, muted me because they haven't seen the episode yet. Nautilus says, you would love Foundation, based on Isaac Asimov's writings. I have not read the book, but I watched couple of episodes of the Apple Plus or Apple TV series, which was pretty cool, actually. Hey, we've got Olsa, who actually once has been, or actually I taught the confirmation class only once, but we stayed in touch through TikTok. That's very cool. My microphone has static. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. Oh, I apologize for that, because I'm using a remote microphone, so I can't hear myself back. I'm using this microphone for YouTube. So yeah, I'll try to listen back It's also because my phone, unfortunately, is very old. I am going to replace it with a new phone. Someone has been so kind to sponsor an iPhone. So this is an Asus phone. It's not the best thing. So hopefully the quality will improve over time. But what matters is that you can more or less understand what I'm saying. My apologies for the lack of quality sometimes, but I'll do my best to improve. And what is most important is your support. So thank you so much for the privilege of your time. Thanks to all of you on YouTube. If you want to see like a summary of this live stream, if you only like hopped in the very last moments, make sure to go to youtube.com/Father Roderick, where I will take the best parts of this live stream and I'll post them there as separate videos. There's also already a video up that I posted this morning with my review of Chainsaw Man. There are more videos about Berserk, about Neon Genesis Evangelion, all that and more coming to my YouTube page. So make sure to go there and have the wonderful end of your day. And I'm going to party now with Father Henry because today marks the 26th anniversary of my priestly ordination. 26 years ago, if you told me that I would be streaming live to YouTube and to TikTok, I wouldn't have believed it because TikTok hadn't been invented yet. Nor had YouTube been, by the way. That I'm ordained before the era of Facebook and YouTube. So anyway, that warrants a party. So thanks again for your time, and we'll talk soon. God bless, and may the force be with you. So that was TikTok, and let's see. Paula also loved the episode. Yeah, it was so cool. Acting was great. Let's not forget about the dialogue, right? It's so cool. Anyway, you can unmute, but you can also go just move along because I'm ending this stream. It's time for dinner. But it was fun. I'll be back tomorrow with another live hour soon.